It's the Rangers Journal night.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Wednesday's edition of the Rangers Journal. I'm your host, Jock, and tonight we will be digging into last night's result a wee bit closer, and we'll also be taking a look at what our European ambitions are, obviously, now that we're in the next round. To help me do that, I'm joined by one of our graphics gurus and one of our stat guys, Doug. Doug, how are you, mate?
Not too bad, just trying to get through the heat.
I think we all have sweats pouring off me here. And to help as well, I've also got Stevie. How are you doing, Stevie?
Evening, mate. I'm good. I've got a fan to hand, so I well prepared. It's roasting. All good. Thanks.
I think Doug's got a fan as well. I think I'm investing in one of these wee fans you plug into your computer, keep you cool. I'm waiting on Dylan joining as well, so we'll have a fourth as well. So there's plenty of us to chat and discuss. So, as I say, the Russell Martin era suffered its first loss last night away in the Czech Republic to Plzen. Action-packed game, shall we say? Just probably more action-packed than the wrong end of the pitch. For some of us fans. So we went through thanks to obviously the home leg, which basically set the tie up and ensured that, if we nicked a goal over there, probably would do us justice, and it turned out to be that way. Really, it was a bit more comfortable in terms of scorelines. Doug, whenever you seen the lineup, then how did you see the game going initially? Whenever the lineup was announced.
The game by and large went kind of how I thought it might. Although we did play maybe a little worse than I expected in some respects, but I did expect Plzen to dominate the game. First and foremost, as the home team, they were always going to be coming out and coming hard at us because they had 3 goals to try and make up. So if I was them, I'd have been saying put the pressure on, try and get an early goal. And that's essentially what they came out and tried to do. They got their goal, albeit not until just before half time, but that is a good time to get a goal. So go in, reset and go out for a second half. And they did kind of, despite us pulling one back, which I think in reality, at that point that killed the tie. But they still went at it and excuse me, and as I say, dominated the match. So on the lowdown, I predicted 1-1, which it looked like it was going to be until the last couple of minutes. So as I say, it went kind of how I was expected. That being said, as I say, I do caveat it with there were aspects of our game that were poorer than I thought, in particular in defence, as I'm sure we'll talk about.
Yep. Dylan, welcome, mate. How are you?
I'm good, lads. I'm good. Thanks for having me on. Sorry I was late.
No, you're fine. Dylan, I'll come to you then. When you seen the lineup, how did you expect the game to go last night? Were you much aligned with Doug, or?
I thought that's what I was wanting. I was sort of calling out for it, for Raskin to play in the 6 to see how we done. I would have maybe liked to see Rothwell further up the field because I think he's really tidy on the ball, probably our most technical player on the ball. The lineup is exactly what I expected, and I expected a lot more from them, to be honest with you. I expected them to be sort of like the last game when we played them and be a lot more energetic, I think, and moving about the pitch, getting on the ball, making things happen. I don't know if we seemed leggy or spooked or everything was just sort of, we were second to every ball, giving the ball away too easy. So, yeah, it was a bit of a shock, considering that's the lineup that I was hoping for. But it was a shock to me, mate.
Stevie, just to recap then what you thought then, obviously, of the lineup and just a quick on how you thought the match went.
It was pretty much to echo what the boys have said. It was kind of the team that I expected to see, to be fair. But overall, it was a very disjointed performance, real lack of cohesion. Like Dylan just said there, we really were poor in possession. We gave it away numerous times, inviting pressure onto ourselves, which was needless. Tempo wasn't great. But as you said right at the top, we done all the hard work a week ago. You know, we essentially got the job done at Ibrox with a really good performance last week. So it almost allowed them to kind of just conserve last night and just get the job done, get through the tie, which is all that really mattered. But I think, given obviously the circumstances of the two domestic games, following up with defeat, it's no ideal for anybody, especially the manager. But ultimately, bottom line, they progressed, and that's the most important thing.
That's it. We got through. You know, it's another, was it £4.3 million? I think that's roughly €5 million in the bank. So it's another top up of the coffers. Hopefully, which we'll probably be spending on a couple more players with the Mendy, the incoming centre back. Probably going to be a nice next couple of days for what we're seeing online. As Doug, you touched on earlier, then, you know, they scored right before half time. As you say, it's a perfect time to get a goal. Right before it totally changes the team talk for both sets of teams. Did you expect any kind of reaction in the second half from the team coming out? Did you expect any changes, or did you sort of just expect it to go the way it went?
I don't think it necessarily changes our team talk too much. You'd have presumably been telling them to just keep things going, keep things ticking over. You know, don't deny them space. The main problem, I think, the stat that sticks out there, and I think the stat that's starting to become apparent to a lot of people, is the total shots there. 27 shots against 9. Now, I would expected them to have had more shots than us overall, probably because, again, they were trying to overturn a 3-0 deficit. But 27-9 is a huge swing, and I think it's something like 100 plus now shots that we've faced across the matches that we've played. Which is a massive amount for the few games for a team that certainly in at least 2 of those games should have been the dominant team. And I hate to do this, but I saw Curry put something in the comments, and for possibly the second pod in a row, I completely agree with something Curry said. This is getting a bit Twilight Zone for me, but he said it's not really the scores or the results, it's the performances that are more the concern. I mean, yes, it's results in terms of the league, but the big issue really is that you can draw with teams, that's fair enough, but it's more the manner of the draw. And I think that's the thing that's most concerning fans right now, even though it's really early doors. And I do think a lot of us, and I include myself in this, maybe panicking a little bit quickly, but it's because we're not really seeing any shoots of progression or shoots of where we're heading. Like, Russell Martin talked about going through the pain and then it will click and it'll be so good once it does. But it's hard to draw a line between here and there and say, oh, well, I can see a bit of this and I can see a bit of that and how that's developing in comparison to what we kind of thought when he was coming in. And I think that's been the problem. The second half was largely like the first, but it kind of just felt like it was getting worse over the period. Instead of us, like what I'd have liked to have seen is when we got that goal, as I say, I think that goal killed the tie, and maybe the players thought that as well, and so they just were kind of like, ugh. Yeah. But I kind of maybe would have liked to just have got a second, killed it completely, and then we could have just played it out nicely. But instead, they were getting chance after chance after chance, and you just started to think, oh, and then of course when obviously they scored, and I did kind of think, oh, it's a bit late on for them to do anything. But nonetheless, I felt that twinge of, and I think that's the bit. It's that there's previous teams where at 2-1 with 83 minutes gone, I wouldn't have been worried in the slightest because we played well and I would be confident. And I kind of feel like that confidence is slightly slipping away because our defensive performances have been really lacking.
Yeah, I'm saving that point for later, but now you brought it up, I'll chuck it in now. Dylan, over the years, Rangers in Europe have had this knack and ability to be able to soak up pressure and then sort of deal with it and manage the game. Something we can't seem to do in the league, and we've struggled to do it in the league for years. But certainly in Europe, we can do that. Do you think this transition and what we're doing with Russell Martin, we're going to lose that ability, or certainly it's as Doug says, it's maybe starting to chip away at it?
I think so, but then the question I ask myself is, and I know it looks like it's going to be very far away. Does it come if losing that Europa League strength or European strength, if that comes at the benefit of us getting better in the league, then I can accept it. Obviously, as a lot of fans can. Right now, we can't see that happening, and that's the problem. Right now, from the first game of pre-season to that game last night, there's no difference, really. It's very, very few and far between. But if you were to tell me the first game against Plzen, I thought it was night and day, and I thought, right, we've finally clicked. I don't think I've come away from Ibrox, and I said this at the time, as comfortable on a European night. I can't remember when the last time it was. We were so comfortable on the ball. Everything was just, it was almost perfect. And even in that game, I didn't feel like there was any danger. Now, I don't know what's happened since then. I don't know if he's feeding the players with too much information and flooding them, and they don't know what they're trying to do because they're trying to take on too much. Yeah. Again, he is at Rangers. He's maybe trying to get it to click too fast. But I think, personally, obviously, people have played the game, people have coached the game. When you start to give anybody too much information, somebody's just going in one ear and out the other, and they don't know what they're doing. I don't know if it's more of that he's trying to do because he knows that he has to get up and running, he knows he has to get points. That's what I'm taking from it. Sort of on the better side of things. But like I said, that first game, I know we're going back to it last week, I thought it was outstanding, and I thought if we can see a Rangers team that can give us that level of performance, those types of goals, we'll be flying. And then it came Dundee, and we just looked a shadow of the team we were. So I think I know Dundee posed a different threat. So I say, so maybe okay, I can understand why we didn't sort of carve them open because he had 2 banks of 5, and so that's different. He's learning that. But last night we should have went out and done exactly what we done in the first half, and we didn't, and that's a worry for me. And I think that, of course, it's only the trend is starting to show that it is going to get worse in Europe for us. We just need to hope it starts to click in the league form. But as it stands now, it's a far cry.
It is, and like, I don't want to sound too negative, but we're going up another level of opposition here in the next tie, and that's something obviously we'll touch on later on, and it is going to get more difficult, especially if we qualify through it. Stevie, looking at the chart here in the middle, I think we've got a lot to thank Jack Butland for last night. I thought he was tremendous, even though he conceded 2 goals. There were some terrific saves in there.
Yeah, man of the match. He was outstanding again. Super performance for him. Really glad that he's got his confidence and his performances levels are went back up. Just quickly in defence there. I know last night was pretty poor all round at the back, but I'm not defending Martin. But you have to consider that only really one of those signings was his. He's still got Tav, he's still got Suter, and he's still got Jeffy. Those aren't his players. I know he's got to coach what he's got, but clearly that's not his first picks in defence. So you'd hope that what we're seeing isn't going to continue. The boy Mendy's coming in; he should make a big difference. Get another left back. I thought Jeffy falling flat on his face for their first goal was just pretty much typical of his Rangers career. He's on paper, he's got all the metrics. He looks good, but then he plays and he lets you down. He's got to go. But sorry, to go back to your point about Butland, he was excellent. We definitely had a lot to be thankful for Jack, but that's his job. That's what he's there for. But I'm pretty sure he'd like to face less shots in these games. But hopefully this style is going to click because it can't really continue the way it's going. Because as you have covered, if we come up against a serious team, we could get absolutely spanked, and nobody wants to see that.
I think a big concern for me after last night was Yefty's performance. I think it definitely wasn't a great night for him, and the fact that we don't have much depth there to bring on and try and rescue him when he's having a night like that, bring him out. But if reports are led to believe, he could be on the way out anyway. So ideally that means we're bringing somebody else in, because folk were itching to see Arns get out of that position, even though he's more than capable of playing it, because he done all right. He done all right, and I don't think he's done any worse than Jeffers Yefty had last night.
Yeah.
It was just a stinker. It was just one of those that happens to everybody. So at some point in their career, they'll have an absolute howler, and that was just one of them. Doug, looking at the midfield, then obviously we get back into the game, one each. Lyle Cameron, right place, right time. I thought the initial build up for the goal was one of the only times where we kind of went direct through the middle, and it was a quick ball over the top that completely stretched them. And obviously, then we scored the goal from it. They're happy to see the young man get a goal, his first goal for the club.
Absolutely, I'm a big Lyle Cameron fan, and as I say, I've said a number of times, I think you can grow into the next level and be a good player for us. He did a lot of something that I don't see enough of our midfielders do, which is late runs into the box.
Yeah.
People just weren't finding him or weren't seeing him for the majority of the match. I saw some people saying, calling him anonymous, which I thought was a little bit unfair, just because, as I say, I feel like he made a lot of good runs and a lot of good movements during the game, but people just weren't finding him with the ball or seeing him. Now that maybe there's part of that. Maybe he's not making the runs that the team are expecting him to make from their coaching. I don't know. But from my point of view, they were the type of runs I like seeing midfielders make, because they can result in goals like the one he got. And to hark back to it again, we've not had a player since Scott Arfield really that does those types of runs on a consistent basis. Players do it, but Arfield used to do it all the time. And it was one of the things that I felt made him a really effective substitute in his sort of last season or two, because he would come on and he would suddenly be making those runs. The team who had been defending for however long weren't expecting them, and he would get late goals as a result of finding that space in the box. And I would absolutely love if Lyle Cameron came that kind of player, but like a younger version. So I was quite pleased about that. And I just think if we can mix that a little bit with how he then played in the first leg, where he was on the ball more, then I think you'll start to get really top performances out of him. So pros and cons from it, but yeah, great to see him get his first goal.
Dylan, previously on Monday night we'd done a pod on Diomande. How do you think he fared last night? Just out of curiosity.
Diomande, for me, he's very much falls into the category of like a fashion Sakala, who seems very raw, and then he pulls something out of the bag. You're like, how do they do that? A bit like Dessers as well, to be honest with you. Sometimes the ball's bouncing off him, bouncing off his shins. It's scrappy when it comes to him. He's not very tidy on it. And then other times he'll get the ball, control it, and spin out of danger and go and start an attack. Or at least last season we saw some of that. This season, not so much. Again, I thought he was poor. I thought he got caught in the ball a lot. His touches were 2 yards too much away from him. Now, I think the goal that we score is a very good goal, and we'll touch on it in the tactical breakdown of it when we do it in the next couple of days. So keep your eyes out for it.
Yep.
Dessers comes short. Diomande spins in, goes in long and behind, and Suter actually goes long. It's one of the only times we played a ball or a long ball over the top, and we cut them open and we score from it. Obviously, Diomande keeps it in, plays it into Danilo, whose movement's pretty good. He has I don't know if it's a pass or a shot, and Cameron finishes it. So a decent well-worked goal with maybe 2 or 3 passes leading to it, and that's what you want. But I don't think that's what Russell Martin's style of play is. So it's more sort of Clement that we saw that happening with. I know I'm harping on about different things, but I think Diamande's involved in it. For me, I think I would like to see a tidier player in there, and obviously we've not seen Asgard yet. Does Asgard come into that? Lyle Cameron's very tidy on the ball as well.
Yeah.
Very really gives it away. His movement's good. So do we see an Asgard in there? Like I said at the start, my first point, I'd like to see a Rothwell in there. I'd like to see him being the driving force. Let Raskin do the dirty work, because again, I know Russell Martin's wanting sort of the most tidiest player on the ball, doesn't lose it, but how often are we going to break out if all the passes are back to the centre backs and they're not turning to face and going and starting to attack? So I think if you allow Raskin in there, if the ball does break, he can go and be like a terrier, go win the ball back, and then give it to sort of players like Rothwell who are tidy on it, who can drive us forward and pick out those sort of killer passes. That's what I'd like to see. Then 70 minutes or whatever, bring Diamandi on. He's got legs in, he can go and affect the game that way. But I don't know if the manager's just maybe been hamstrung with his substitutions or his players that he's got now because Asgard's injured. Where we've seen as much of Diamandi as we have, only he can answer that. But for me, I think it's sort of needs a wee spell out the team. But again, it's only if there's players that can come in and play that position.
No, I think you're right. I say we're still itching to see Asgard in any shape or form, really, aren't we? Hopefully, we see that on Saturday. Stevie, then I'm looking at the sheet here and I'm looking at the comments. Ant-Man seems to be getting, a bit of flack. Not through the fault of his own. It's more obviously the folk are saying it's Russell Martin's fault. He didn't have a good game. I thought the first half, he was actually all right. And some of the balls he was playing, he played a cracking ball into Dessers that I think he should have just volleyed, but he tried to not square it back. And then there was another sort of diagonal ball he played at the angle and for I think it was maybe Gassama to run onto, and it was a great, or maybe Diamandi actually. But two terrific balls in the box, but it's just one of those things we just weren't able to capitalise on them. I don't think he done too badly.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, wasn't as good as last week, but ultimately nobody was. As Dylan said, last week was a really excellent performance, like 1-11, and last night wasn't an excellent performance, 1-11 really, other than Butland. So I wouldn't be too harsh on the guy. And as you've just pointed out there, to his delivery, I mean, some of his deliveries, I say 9 times out of 10, he gets almost spot on. What he really needs is a proper number 9, like a real striker who's going to finish these chances, because he got 17 assists last season for his Dutch team, and it shows why, because his delivery is almost like it's weighted almost perfectly every time. It was a quiet game, or quieter game for him, but he certainly wasn't the worst player on the pitch. I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to what Dylan said there. See about Raskin, he's got to be that deep midfielder, because he's the tempo. Like, Rangers need to be playing at a much quicker speed. And whenever Raskin's in that position, especially at home, I would say, he moves the ball so quickly up the field. That's what we really need. And I think Martin, that's a huge call that he's got to make. I think that's really important, that Raskin has got to be that defensive mid, that anchor, or he's going to come under even more pressure, I would suggest. I would kind of take issue with a couple of the comments there, but I know it's not Q&A, but somebody was saying there that Rangers have went backwards under Martin. We've reached the European Champions League playoff round. That never happened last season. We're still very average in the league, but you can't say we've went backwards, because that's not accurate.
I think there's a lot of frustration there, and we're still in this transition period, whether you like it or not. We're six competitive games in. This is just something I think we just need to maybe sit and suffer with until it clicks. And if it doesn't click, then it's on obviously the board. Then we'll have to look at that. But some of the stuff you see on social media last couple of weeks has been absolutely wild, especially today. But I mean, I know, and like, see, people are saying the same crap. We could do the same crap and we could just sack him and we could just go again, and he'd be one of the quickest managers ever to be in and out the door. Rangers sorry, Stevie. Rangers traditionally have a proud history of not sacking managers and being successful and having long tenures. Now we're in the stage where we're like a Premier League club itching to stay in the Premier League. They'll chop managers left, right, and centre just to try and stay there. We don't want to get into that cycle, because we'll never ever get out yet if we keep doing that. We've got a new ownership, we've got a new recruitment team, we've a new football structure in the background, something we haven't had. We need to give it time. It's just it's middle August. You know what I mean? It's middle August. We just need. I think we just need to just try and chill out a wee bit, even though the results are just not going the way we're going. But Russell Martin did say that at the start. That's going to be his hardest job, is doing all this and trying to be successful at the same time. You know, I think it's going to be a long season if we're trying to get rid of him now. You know, because those guys aren't going to get rid of him. So I'll get my rant over. Go ahead, Stevie.
You just lifted that out of my head. That's exactly what I was going to say. It's like, you know, just, I get it. It's difficult. I mean, it's difficult to watch them now, but ultimately, you know, we've signed 9 quality players. Probably another 2 or 3, maybe even 4 coming in. A few going out, hopefully. Excuse me. So yeah, like you said, the new owners, they spent, 80, 90 million quid to get Rangers. Their biggest appointment's the manager. So say they sack Martin. What does that say about Thelwell? What does that say about Purdy? You know, just getting rid of the managers. Basically, everybody's admitting to instant failure. It's like, you know, give them time. Let them actually bed in. It might take a few months. You've got to just try and, you know, keep in touch with the top league through that time. But you have to wait and see what happens. Like I say, if we were to just sack the manager, then where are we? Back to square one. You know, you need to get a chance.
Doug, Curry's asking a good question here, probably going off topic, but who's excelling under Martin? Anybody? Be positive.
Finlay Curtis.
I've seen him.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. It's hard to. I mean, that would be a hard question to answer full stop because we've played so few games. But I mean, you know, Gassama came in, or Gassam, sorry, I believe it is, came in and was scoring goals for fun to start with. He's maybe not been quite the same in the last game or so, but he still played well all in. So, I mean, he's been a hit thus far, I would say. So there's that him. I think everyone's been pretty happy on the whole with Giga as well, in terms of how he's been doing. So, I mean, he's played well. That man had a great opening game. Again, he's only played a couple of times. So, there are players there that are doing okay. I think Lau Cameron has done well when he's played. Obviously, he's just got his first goal. So there are players there. Butland, someone just put in the comments there. Butland is totally seemingly returned to the goalie that we got the first time, the first season we purchased them. So there are players that are playing well. I mean, dare I even say it? You know, in the league, to have played 2, scored 2. So I had to. I couldn't. You know, I couldn't not. But
Curry's just blown up. Curry's just combusted, by the way.
I know all that good work I did earlier on is gone out the window now. But no, in all seriousness, there are a handful of players there that are playing well. And I do think that, you know, the bigger issue is the unit and them getting them to play together. It's all fine and well, and you do need players that can have big moments and win you games with goals and things like that. That is also something we have missed over the last couple of years since we in fact, pretty much since going back to 21 and 22, really. That was fine. He's in the comments. He missed it. It's fine. You missed nothing, Curry. Absolutely nothing. Yeah, I mean, we've missed moments players as well. Moments players, and when I say that, I don't mean that the way that some people used to say it about, say, Hadji, where he only pops up every so often, but moments players in that, those that come in with key moments, big moments, to win you games and to push you over the line. I think that there's potential in players like Assam, Ant-Man to have that in them. So there are players there playing well. I think the concern's more about the system. You know, when we first started playing, our fullbacks were like really, really heavily inverting into the sort of defensive midfield area, and the Raskan and Diamande were kind of pushing outwards. And to me, that was, you know, I was expecting that. That was what I'd kind of read about and looked up in Martin's system. But then in the last few games, they've not really been doing that as much, and the back four's been a little bit more flat, and that's led to the midfield kind of being flat and close to them, which has then and led to there being big gaps between the midfield and the attack. And that was a problem that we had under Clement as well, in terms of being large gaps between forward players and midfield players. So there's issues with the system, and I think that's the bigger issue rather than individuals.
Yeah, I think you're right. Just give a shout out to Chaz there, who's kindly donated a Rangers Journal membership to one of our people in the chat, and he's also gave us a fiver as well. Thanks very much, Chaz, for the donations. Thanks for the support. We really appreciate it. Even though it's tippy-tappy football, you have to get used to it, I think, for a wee bit longer. Dylan, we'll come back to the end of the match. We're a wee sidetrack there. We had plenty of chances last night, particularly in the second half. After we were taking the batter in and we did soak up a lot of pressure. We did hit them on the counter-attack. I'd say maybe a good 4 or 5 times where we were through, and it was maybe 2-on-2 or 3-on-2, and we just never seem to find the final ball. Is that something that needs more practice? Is that just composure and those moments in the game where, because the result could be totally different last night if we'd taken those chances, because we could have won, 3-2, 4-2 easily.
Aye, I think it's just time on the pitch, Joe. I think when you've just signed sort of Gassama and Ant-Man, I kind of knew they were attacking with Danilo, and when these players don't understand each other, it's hard. I've always said that players, and it doesn't help, and I've put it in the tactics, I harp on about it all the time. Players that just run straight into the box doesn't help anything. They have to make diagonal runs or run away for the boy on the ball. A lot of time last night, Gassama was running, Danilo's just running sort of straight into the box. If he comes across him, then Gassama can slip him in, or he can go to the space that he vacated. It's simple 3v2 attacking play, or 2v2, or whatever it is that it ends up in. And it happened 3 or 4 times, like you said. I think one time sort of Danilo maybe overlaps or goes across him and it opens up a wee bit, and Ant-Man passes to Gassama instead, and then Gassama sort of dilly-dallies on it and then goes to shoot, and it comes off a defender and he gets it again and he skies it, and it's just decision-making, communication. Those things will come when they start playing together. But again, if you're drumming that into the players every sort of once a week on a training session, then you'll see it'll become more fluid and it'll become just like second nature to them. They'll just start to move off the ball. Things will start to happen. So there's a bit of both there. I don't think Russell Martin's got enough time. He's trying to do, obviously, a lot of it, try to build it for the back, play a different style of play. If that starts to click, then he maybe looks forward from sort of midfield to attack and how we go and then do that part. But right now, his biggest problem for me is getting it into the midfielders and turning facing the opposition goal. Never mind when we break away. The players that we do have should, or the quality of players that were signed, should be able to go and do that themselves without being coached, though. I will say that.
Yeah.
But I think, again, it's just a sort of like a communication error. They're just not played together enough.
I think you're right. I still think we're probably 3 games maybe behind schedule in terms of our pre-season. I obviously wanted time on them training pitch instead of playing games, because we're now in that cycle now where it's game, flight home, break, quick training session, game. And that's we're losing that time to change stuff, and because we're catching up. Of the catch up with the rest period between the games, so we're going to miss out in periods and until the international break comes. But at that point, obviously, you want to hit the ground running. I do personally, I just think we should have maybe had a couple of more pre-season games, but I did. But obviously, it was what he decided to go with. Stevie, we'll come back then, sort of full circle in the game. Then Desser's knee injury. Do you think this will force the club to pull the pin on a striker now? Do you think they'll do it before they get results on this, obviously on the scans in his knee, or do you think they'll just go ahead and buy now?
I mean, we needed a striker either way, mate. We really, Dessers is not the answer. We all know this. He's fine maybe as a squad player, but yeah, we definitely need a new striker who's going to bring more to the team. I appreciate that they haven't been getting service. There's not been great service to the guys that have been in there. Dessers led the line well last week, but a centre forward, we are absolutely crying out for somebody to kind of finish the chances that the wingers should create once we get a bit more cohesion. I really hope to see somebody. We've got that playoff money guaranteed. Obviously, a bit quiet when there's really striker, but anything I see at him, really impressive movement. Good finisher, take pot shots outside the box. Everything that we're kind of missing. So I'd love to see somebody in that mould. And just quickly, can I go to Phil? Rangers Till I Die in the comments. He's made a really good point there about the style. Sorry to veer off the subject, but he's like, we need to be more pragmatic, and I 100% agree with that. We need to kind of be a bit more flexible. Russell Martin cannot keep going with this one way. He says he learned his lesson from Southampton, so show it. Be a bit more pragmatic in your in-game management.
Yeah, well, that's something he did highlight shortly after when he was on Sky. So one of the things I watched whenever he was first sort of heavily linked with the job was a bit of lessons learned from the style of football he was trying to play in the Premier League. Just wasn't working with the players he had. So you're right. I think that we'll just need to wait and see if he implements what he's what he's saying.
I watched. Sorry, can I say one more quick thing, mate? I watched the Leeds Southampton playoff final last night. I just wanted to roll it back and see how they played in that game. In the first 5 minutes, they hit 3 long diagonals, which caused Leeds problems. I was like, should be doing that at Rangers. Mix it up. You know what I mean? He's done it before, but it was 3 centre backs he was playing. It wasn't the full backs. It was 3 proper defenders, 5 in the middle. So it's maybe something else to look at as well. So
that's what got us our goal last night. It was a different ball from what we were playing, and it was the first time we probably really tried it, and it stretched the game, and we got in behind them and we scored. So, like you say, mix it up and don't keep doing the same thing over and over again because it drives the support math. Doug, then we've qualified. We're through. Then we know it's Bruges next. Obviously, we played Bruges in the pre-season friendly. We drew 2 each. We got pretty much a good lesson in football. I think the first half at Ibrox, and then obviously the subs changed it, but then they changed as well. What are you expecting then from Bruges now that they're well on their way under season?
Well, yeah, I expect similar to that first half. They're a good team. They're obviously further ahead in terms of their a team build than where we are now. I think a lot of people were looking at that, going, yeah, that's where we want to get to at some point from that first half. I've been saying all along that you don't get any easy teams when you're at Champions League level, even in qualifiers, and Bruges are no exception to that. But at the same time, they are a beatable team. We just need to be, at our best to do so. If we go out and play like we did in the first leg against Plzen, then I've no doubt that we can beat them. If we go and play how we did in the second leg, then they'll walk away with a comfortable victory themselves. So it really will come down, I think, to how we perform. Just come out over those 2 legs. But they are a beatable team. We have in this round and the playoff round, we got the best draws I think we could have gotten. Yeah. So we need to make the most of that now and get ourselves to that final hurdle. It's nothing different to the previous regimes, really, in that we're aiming to play a style of football primarily that suits Europe better than it may do domestic. So there's that caveat. We get more space in these games, which for players like Sam and Anton is going to be exactly what they want. It then comes down to, can you find them in good positions? That was something we didn't do against Dundee. We weren't finding our wingers in good positions. We weren't hitting them early enough. So, by the time they were getting the ball, they already maybe have 2 players around them. We will find them easier in European matches because teams will come at us more because they're of similar, if not better, level than us. So, as I say, it's a tough game because they're all tough games. There's no easy goes in the Champions League. But as I say, it's a game that can go either way. So it just depends on how we turn up. If we play to our strengths and players, from what I've seen of the new players, they play to their strengths, then, as I say, we can definitely get through the tie, but it will be a tough one.
Dylan, just your thoughts then, obviously, the next phase, what you expecting for Bruges?
It'll be a tough game, really tough game. I think. I think they're a Champions League team. They're in it quite often. But do you know something? I wouldn't be surprised if we turned up. I genuinely wouldn't be. And this is again, this might be where you see in the past, leading up to now, we would all be going into this worried, but a wee bit confidence. At Ibrox we can take them, and then we just need to make sure when we go away, but that's what everybody would be saying. So I think I'm still a bit of that mindset. And if we turn up to Ibrox and we get absolutely walked over the top of, then I think it will tell you that we've lost a stature in European football, like you asked earlier.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be a tough game, mate. And I think that if we turn up like we did against Plzen in the first game, then I think it'll be a really good game of football and we can hurt them. But if we start to, I just think there's so much, even individually as players, I think they're shying away from it as well, not being brave on the ball. I don't think they're moving into the spaces at the right time. I don't think they're working hard enough. There's loads of different things that I think, not just tactically are wrong, but I also think that the players are phoning it in a wee bit, and that shouldn't be the case in the first sort of couple of weeks of the season. So it'll be a tough game, mate, but like I said, it's Rangers, so we'll take anybody at Ibrox, I really will, and then hopefully we can just Butland's the man of the match again in the away leg.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think like at Ibrox, I'm confident against most opposition that come, because I think the players do seem to struggle in the atmosphere and the grandeur of it, and I think our players obviously grown confidence for that. We've seen it over the years. And as you say, last week's performance was ideal. It's what you wanted. You try and kill the tie off at the home leg, get a good number of goals in the score sheet, and then you can go over there and probably, as you say, sit back and hope Butland doesn't face an R27 shots. Stevie, then, are you looking beyond Bruges? Do you think we can do this and we can get into the Champions League and hit that jackpot that we're all sort of crying out for? And I'm sure the guys that bought into Rangers and brought over this is their honeypot. This is what they're wanting.
It's ultimately their main aim. I'm sure it is. Dreamland if we get there. I think we can beat Bruges. Obviously, we played them a month ago. They look like a really technical, tidy football team. It was just a friendly, and we actually upped the tempo a wee bit in the second half. We kind of got at them quite well. So yeah, I think we can definitely beat them at Ibrox. Second leg, obviously last night you saw how kind of vulnerable we can look, and Jack having to like pull it out the bag. That's a worry. I don't think we're as pragmatic as what we can be. So manager's got to adapt very quickly if he wants to get us through this tie, because I think it could be quite tight. Maybe a goal in it at Ibrox and then going away, really maybe have to not get a result, but like we can't really afford to lose like heavily. So yeah, it's a big test, but I think my expectation was if we got to this stage, that in itself was pretty good. We're guaranteed, Europa League football beyond Christmas, so this is almost a bonus, but I want to be in the Champions League for what it brings. Beyond that, like we've signed 9 players, maybe getting another 2 or 3, another couple in January next summer. This is going to really help if we can make it through. I think we're all, half of us might be like hiding behind the couch if we're watching from home some of these Champions League group games that are going to come, because it could be dangerous. Like, I think about my old man, he's like in his 80s, had a few heart problems. He's pretty healthy for his age, he's looked after himself, but see, every time we were defending last night with Jeffy, I was going to text him, I was like, is he alright? It was just like, God. Yeah, and he messaged me, listen, almost having palpitations here, and I was like, I'm really near left back just for you alone. But I wouldn't fancy him in the Champions League, to be fair. But yeah, I think we can do it. But it's going to take a proper Ibrox roar next week to get the fans to kind of help as they always do. So yeah, we can definitely beat them Ibrox. One game at a time. We'll take the first leg and go for there. But yeah, I'd love to see us in the Champions League.
Doug, just your comment there. You don't know how many times I've played Bruges, by any chance?
It's one of those fun facts that sounds good but means nothing. They've only played Scottish teams 3 times. So they played us in the 90s in the Champions League. We drew once and we beat them once. And they played Celtic last year and they drew. So they've never beaten a Scottish team in competitive play. But they've only played us. They only played 3 times. But that was against us and against Celtic. So, but I mean the game last season though is a good game to look at though, if because that's more that obviously the 90s games look going back a bit, but that game is more indicative of how they perform in Europe. Like you said, they are a perennial Champions League team, mostly only group stage, but obviously if Celtic can get a draw with them, then we can do the same, and many argue that we tend to perform better in Europe. So if they can get a draw and we tend to perform better, then why can't we go one better?
Dylan, Champions League obviously is the top table, as I call it. It's where everybody wants to be sitting at. If we don't get Champions League football, do you think that's a red card for, or a mark against Russell Martin? Do you think?
No. I don't think so. No, I was of the mindset last night that if we went out, I wouldn't be that bothered. And the fact being, it would give us more time to focus on the training pitch and more time to work on getting better for the league. But that doesn't come as a guarantee. If you get proud of the Champions League of last night, it's not a guarantee that the more time in the training pitch, the better you get on in the league. So I then changed my mind after the boys in the chat reminded me of that. And I think Champions League football, when was the last time? Champions League Gio, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And so again, no other manager's done it since we came back up. So I think if he doesn't do it, no, it's not a mark against his name. Let's be honest, it's not like he's had an easy run at it either. He took a Rangers team that was in bits as well. Sort of aging players. We're in a rebuild. He's trying to implement a new system. I think if he gets into the Champions League, he should get probably a lot of credit, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
A massive credit. But again, it's credit on it's not on performances, and I think that's what a lot of fans have the issue with. If they can see it building week by week and getting a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better, then I think they may be more patient. But now it just looks like it's going nowhere. But again, things in football are funny. They'll just start to click at some point, and like they did at the first PIzen game, and we'll cut things open. Stevie?
Just a really quick question. I'm just thinking there. Is there another manager in world football who's under more pressure than Russell Martin at Rangers? Like all the scrutiny he gets for us and everybody. I can't think of any other jobs. We're 6 games in. He's almost in the Champions League. People are screaming for him to be sacked. You know what I mean? It's quite wild when you think about it.
I know.
Scar tissue. That's what it is, Stevie. It's scar tissue. We're just we kind of keep sacking managers. If you watch, there was a good thing there with Marcus Rashford that's just been released there this evening, and he talks about transition and talks about what's happening at United, and it echoes true to what's happening at Rangers. We can't keep going on a cycle of managing something because the transition will always be in transition. You need to start the transition and go to the end of it, whether it's successful or whether it fails, but you need to let it run its course. Dylan?
She's well right. Everybody that, or most of the people that I spoke to, wanted a manager with a style of play. Now, Russell Martin has got a style of play, whether you like it or no. It's a style of play. It's worked down at the Championship. It didn't work in the Premier League, but we're not playing in the Premier League, so it shouldn't really matter. We should be the big fish in our league. So the style of football should work, but nobody's given them the time to implement it. Do you know what I mean? It has to be given. And I know it's hard because you want to win, so it's really tough, but it has to be given enough time for us to see, right, either it can't implement it or it doesn't work in this league.
I agree. The thing is, we've won one title in 14 years, so it's not like we're winning every year anyway. So game of the year. You know what I mean?
And made a massive rebuild as well. So I don't understand what. I think the fans are just expecting because it was Motherwell and Dundee, which everybody's got a right to. Do you know what I mean? You've got a right to be annoyed and unhappy about no picking up 6 points in the 2 games. I think it was the surprise of the performance and the way we lost it rather than actually dropping points. But again, it happened when Clement was in charge, it happened when Barry was in charge, it happened when Beale was in charge. So it's not like it's anything new to us. We've lost points in these teams for the last 3 seasons. Even when Gerrard was in charge, until that only season that we won the league, they dropped points to Motherwell and everybody else. So it's not like it's something new. Don't know why fans expect it to be all rosy in the garden.
And we covered this earlier, Don, in the WhatsApp chat. Like, Gerrard is the only Rangers manager in the last decade who got actual time. He got 3 years and he won his 55, most important title. It was painful. For a lot of time, it was really painful to watch. But he got it right because he got the time. So what does that tell you?
If you'd have gave the fans a chance as well, he'd have been sacked after that Hamilton game. So it just goes to show you. I don't think I was at that game. I didn't think it could get any worse at that point. I thought he's been in charge for 2 years. We spent a lot of money in the likes of Kent and Conor Golson and all that. We've had a good Euro run, but we can have Hamilton at home. The players look dejected. And then a season later, and we were unbeaten. So it just goes to show you swings and roundabouts in football and how quickly things can change.
Doug, you had something to say?
Yeah, just a couple of things building off the points the guys are making there. In terms of like the quality and the levels, like people talk about the Championship as a difficult league, and that's true. The Championship is a difficult league. The year he was with Southampton when they got promoted, and that's largely the year people focus on for Russell Martin. So that's when he did his best. He had the long run of undefeated results. I mean, he got promoted that season with a 56% win percentage. And you're looking at realistically having at minimum probably 70 to 75% win percentage if you want to win the Scottish Premiership by virtue of how things shake down. That's a massive jump from in terms of success. So not only is there the pressure, but there's there's a mental adjustment there to make. There's an adjustment of just you need to win more games to make there as well. That managers need to make that jump on. And I think again touching on the what Dylan was talking about in terms of time and things taken. Unfortunately for us, we've been back in the Premier League now for enough time to not really refer too much to what came before that. But at the end of the day, we're still a step behind the team that we want to be beaten because we're still building towards that. And if the broader conventional wisdom of the fan base is that our previous owners were not good enough to fulfill ultimately what needed to be done, which is why we were so happy that the takeover came. So you're essentially, in some ways, you're starting from zero again because you're bringing in a whole new set of folk who need to take those steps. So you can argue that we're back to where we were under when we put Gerrard in place, and that we were coming off of one transition to a new group of people who'd bought the club who were like, right, we need to right this ship and let's do something about that. And so they gave that manager time to right that ship. So like Stevie was saying, it may be a case that we are just going to have to take a bit more pain, and that does suck tremendously because of how lean times have been. But that just might be what it's going to have to take to ultimately right the ship fully to a point where we are regularly winning trophies, regularly fully competing. Because as much as it sucks to say, in the last decade we've not been regularly competing. We are not that team that we used to be again yet. But there are shoots there. There are signs. We've had Europe as a sort of a thing there to kind of make us feel a wee bit better about things, and that's good. But we need to. It's about finding the positives from that and getting them into the domestic football, which is still, the part of the puzzle that we have to crack. But yeah, it may be a case that it will take a bit of time, and so it's one or the other. Like you say, we either keep going the sort of old school Chelsea style, where it's right, you're not good enough, you're sacked. So you want to say, or you're not good enough either, you're sacked. Great, you've won some stuff. Oh, you've lost the next season, you're sacked. You can either go that way, and we'll become that type of team, or we stick. People talk about traditions and values and things like that, and yeah, that's part of our traditions has been managers in place for periods of time. So maybe that's what it's going to take to, and maybe that's what history is telling us. We gave that guy 3 years and he won a title. So since then we've sacked people after what is it? Who was the longest? I don't know. They've all been roughly the same, a year and a half, because they all came in. Yeah. They all came in halfway through a season and then got sacked.
Yeah,
about a year or so later. So maybe it is a case of just we're going to have to stick it in for the long term. Maybe it'll be crap for a year, and maybe it'll not click till midway through next season. But maybe we're just going to have to suck it up and take that time to find that out. Because what we've said it enough times, what we've been doing isn't working. Yeah. So do we need to try something else?
No, you're right, Doug. That's it. We can't keep doing what we're doing. We need to. This is the guy that the board, these new owners, and the football structure that's been put in place behind him have picked. And this is something we just need to get on board with and get behind. Because we're not going to sack him in August. Absolutely not. So we just need to bide our time and, like I say, wait until it clicks. Hopefully. Just to give a shout out to everybody. Thanks everybody for watching. And if you're watching on Twitter, can you head over to our YouTube channel and just hit the like button and subscribe as well? And you can get us there. Does us a massive favour, so it does going forward. I'll go round the houses then, Dylan. Just round up then. How do you think? How do you think it's going to go the next 7 days? 2 big games coming up.
I think for the cup game at the weekend, I'd like to see sort of if Ant-Man Asgard and if Mikey Moore and Eggman are all fit, I'd like to see all them play. But I think they keep the other players, apart from those who need sort of that game time, those 3, I think everybody else should stay as a team. I don't want to see any rotations. They need to learn to play together. They need to be, hopefully, learning the patterns of play, breaking Alloa down, scoring goals, getting confidence, and then we can take that forward. That for me is massive. And then that takes us into, obviously, Tuesday and just a big game. And we tend to go up for big games. I think the players will be a lot sharper. They know they have to run about more. They know they have to give a bit of dig. So the other night they were 3-0 up. So you can maybe half excuse them for being like not as energetic, because they know that they're kind of saving themselves. Didn't want to put too much in it because they knew the tie was already almost done. But on Tuesday night it's going to be a massive ask. But listen, the game the other night, me and Dave are going to break it down. We'll go through what was good in it, what was bad in it. We'll break down the goals. So again, stay tuned for that. Keep your eyes peeled, because it will be all over the socials, and we'll do a pod on it as well for the guys that are interested in how he's going to get better and if things are going to get worse.
No, definitely keep an eye out for that, because I say it's good to see it slowed down and you get a better sort of understanding of what's going on. Stevie, then just a quick round up then before we head off.
Yeah, similar to Dylan, I want to see Asgard, Eggman, Mikey Moore. Hopefully Curtis gets 90 minutes or close to 90 minutes at the weekend. Hopefully put a few goals past Alloa. Get a decent result, maybe 3 or 4-0. No injuries, and then on to obviously the midweek game against Club Brugge. That's a huge game. Another night under the lights at Ibrox. It'll be fantastic, hopefully. And right performance, same with the Plzen home leg and Panathinaikos. Plenty to build on, and hopefully another positive result.
Right, thanks everybody for watching. Appreciate the comments and the cars donating the stuff. Thanks to the guys for joining me. It was great chatting to you. It's always good to get a wee vent and a wee session, a wee therapy session, just to break it down and just get things off your chest. Join us again. We're on tomorrow night for a Q&A. I think that's penciled in for 9:30, and then obviously we'll do build-ups to obviously Friday, and then there'll be the build up to the game on Saturday, post match, pre match. Thanks again, everybody, and just remember, every night's a Rangers Journal night.